Hello. I'm back. So are you. So I want to talk about a sensitive subject this morning. It's you. It's you. You're the sensitive subject this morning. It's you, it's me, it's everybody. I feel like everybody is a sensitive subject lately, and maybe even more sensitive than I've ever experienced. And I know, everybody thinks that now is always more than it ever was, and I get that. But it really does feel that way to me. Maybe it feels that way to you. I really feel like saying anything about anything is going to get you in some trouble somewhere. You know what I'm talking about? Like I feel like at this point in my life, well, back up a second. When I was younger, I used to make fun of people like me for not really knowing what was okay and not okay to say. Okay? Like I would look at older people, I'd look at my dad, and my dad would just be out somewhere in public and just start talking. He wasn't really thinking. I'd be like, you can't say that. You know, you can't tell that story anymore. That's not acceptable. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that. And now I feel like I don't even have any idea what I can and can't talk about anymore, because people are so sensitive these days. And I'm not just talking about everybody else. I'm really talking about all of us as a culture. We're very, very threatened by what other people might or might not think about us. And it feels intense. And maybe you've seen some of this, but it's kind of like there's this unwritten mantra now. It goes like this: if a person makes you feel bad, they are bad. You laugh, but it feels like that, doesn't it? Or how about this one? If someone disagrees with you, if somebody disagrees with your choice, they hate you. That's hatred. Now, when you write it out loud like that, when you write it down and say it out loud, you go, oh, that's ridiculous. But it is more and more what we are kind of just informally adopting amongst ourselves. And the problem is, well, it's kind of obvious it doesn't really work, right? I mean, this only works if, number one, nobody actually really cares about you. Like, if nobody actually really cares about you, then it's okay that nobody ever, say, you know what, I don't think that's smart. I think you should stop that. Or, I don't think that's really doing what you say that it does. Or I don't really think that's going to be good for you in the future. As long as nobody gives a rip about you, then, that philosophy can work. As long as you never have any parents, that can work. Dad comes along and says, you know what, I don't want you doing that because there's a risk there, and you don't see it, but I can see it. I have experience. You hate me. Why do you hate me? You know what? You don't love me. It only works if those things are true. But otherwise, there are problems. There are problems. And it's something I believe we can all become guilty of. This is not just a modern thing, not just something that we can blame on the media or politics. I mean, it's with everything now. It's like, choice of hairstyle or choice of lifestyle or choice of macaroni and cheese out of the box or the real thing made from scratch. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We're very, very sensitive. If anybody calls us on anything, we start to freak out inside. Well, what if everybody else hears that? What if somebody else thinks this? Is this what everybody is thinking? How come I don't get any respect? What is going on? I've wanted to know what's going on for a while. And as tempted as I am to think that this is just a new thing in us, the truth is, it's not. It's not. It may feel that way, but the truth is, I'm going to show you in a minute, this was going on a very, very, very long time. And what I'm going to show you today is a place where Jesus meets the same kind of thing head on, and he actually explains what the real issue is underneath it all. And I'm going to give you a hint ahead of time. It's a whole lot about our identities. He points out that we are actually, many of us, suffering from an identity crisis. And he explains how it works. And there are a few irrefutable laws that he points out. And I want to share those things with you this morning because I think they can really help us all get to the root of the issue and get a little bit closer to being that bulletproof person that we will all love to be. And I'm going to take you to John 8 in order to do it. This is John 8:31. That's where I'm speaking from this morning. Jesus has got a group of people around him, and they're actually believers in a sense. They have decided, they've heard what he said, and they believe it. So there's been a spark of faith. And they're around him, and they're saying, we want to be with you. We want to be for you. We think you're the guy. You're the Savior. As much as they could understand what a Savior was, they said, we want to be with you. We're on Team Jesus all the way. And this is what John wrote. He says, to the Jews who believed him, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So, in other words, guys, if you want to be on Team Jesus, that means you become students of me, and I re-educate you about everything in life. A complete re-education. You are my students. That makes me the teacher. And it's only if you stick with my teaching and adhere to that, then you're my disciples. That's how this relationship works. And you could just hear the record player screeching, whoa, what? This is what they say. And it's interesting, they start talking about their identities. They say, we are Abraham's descendants and have never been slaves of anyone. How can you say that we shall be set free? In other words, we're fine with you. We're for you. We like you. We want to be on your team, but we don't need to be re-educated. What are you talking about? What could you possibly be talking about that needs to be changed? I just thought, you raise up your flag and then we all gather around you and we're fine. Just no, it's a re-education from the inside out, by the way. No. And they start talking about who they come from. We come from Abraham. If you don't know who Abraham is, he's like the father of faith. He is the faith hero of their entire culture. For thousands of years, the faith hero, Abraham, he is the guy they would tell stories to their children about. This is what real faith looks like. This is who we identify with. This is our genealogy. This is where we come from, and we're proud. We're Abraham's descendants. That's our uber, super, duper, ooperty, dooperty granddad, Abraham. Yeah, right? You're like, what? What is wrong with him? And Jesus has this back and forth startup about their identity. They seem to be very confused. And he says, okay. I tell you the truth. Everyone who sins is a slave to sin. In other words, you guys are sinful. I don't care where you come from. I'm telling you, you're actually sinful in your heart. Now, they don't digest that very well. But that's what he says. I tell you the truth, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. And he gives them a little metaphor about what it's like to be a slave versus what it's like to be a son or a daughter in the household. And there's a difference, and you want to be like the son or the daughter. And so he comes back to their identity problem, and he says, I know you're Abraham's descendants. I know that. Yet, you're ready to kill me because you've no room for my word. I'm telling you that what I have seen in the Father's presence, and you do what you've heard from your father. Which is a pretty big slam if you keep reading. And I hope you come back to this and read this. But they come right back. They say, Abraham is our father. This is who we are. We're faithful people. We come from Abraham. This is our identity. And this is his reply. And this is, just kind of brace yourself, all right? Because there's a big old truth coming out of this. He says, if you were Abraham's children, said Jesus, then you would do the things Abraham did. As it is, you're determined to kill me. You're so angry. A man who has told you the truth that I heard from God. Abraham didn't do such things. You are doing the things your own father does. There is a powerful truth here, and I hope that if you don't even care about anything else I say, you just pick up on this one bit and take it home and chew on it. And that's that identity is not who you come from, it's who you become like. It's not who you come from, it's not where you come from, but it's who you actually become mirrored after in reality. And Jesus is pointing out to them, look, you guys, I know you come from here, and I know you know the stories, and I know you were raised right, and all that good stuff. I'm telling you, though, that's not who you are. You are who you are becoming like. You choose your identity. You adopt your identity. There are many things which you cannot choose, and you have no power over. You cannot choose who your parents are. You did not birth yourself. You can't decide. You can't pop out of the womb and decide what hair color you're going to have or eye color or any of that stuff. You can't determine what situation you will be born into. But identity is different. You will become like someone. And it has a lot to do with what you will or will not allow in your life, the outcome of that whole thing. Yeah. And so they argue. Of course, they argue about it. They're like, no, this guy is a goofball. What is his problem? What is his problem? Like you would expect, right? Somebody tells you, no, you're not really who you think you are. You come from Abraham, but you're not Abraham's children. You're not like him. You may point to him, and you may like him, but that doesn't make you like him. That's very different. Hang on to your hats, because there's more. Because he starts to get into the root of the problem on a personal level. He says this in 8:43. He says, why is my language not clear to you? Why not? Why is my language not clear to you? Is it too logically complicated? Is there not enough vivid imagery in my descriptions? Is it any of these things? Obviously not. He says, because you're unable to hear what I say. Because you're unable to hear what I say. It's not too complicated. Me calling you out, it's not too complicated. You can handle it logically. I'm actually setting up like this perfect Lego house out of all these beautiful multicolored tiles and stacking them one on top of another and saying, here, this is what it is. This is how it is. This is what it looks like. They won't accept it. It's like, why? Is it because it's over your heads? Or is it something else? Actually, it says because you're unable to hear it. There's something in us that will not allow something that threatens our identity. No matter what that identity may be built on, if there's something that threatens that identity, we have this filter built into ourselves. There's an emotional filter on, and it comes on and it says, hey, did what they just say is true threaten who I believe that I am? If it does, naughty. Fear alert, threat alert, right? Crisis alert. Says, you're telling me you identify as one thing. I'm telling you it doesn't matter what you think that you identify. It's your actual identity that counts and determines who you are. And this is what happens. He's bringing this to life. This is irrefutable thing number 2. Everything you hear is filtered by whether it threatens your identity or not. What does that mean for you? And this is the hard part. I said brace yourselves, right? If you identify as a Christian, identify as a mom, identify as a good soldier, identify as fill in the blank with whatever thing that you like, that you respect and admire, your actual identity is what's going to come screaming up to the surface when people start coming at you with different ideas about who you are. You know, if you're a great soldier, I mean, that's what you want to be. If you've modeled your life after being a great soldier, and you might say, well, you know, this is part of my, you know, part of who I am and all that good stuff, that's fine. But if somebody comes along and says, actually, this is what a really great soldier looks like, and it's a little different than you, it's fighting words. It's fighting words, isn't it? You know, if you've modeled yourself in actuality after being, you know, a super attractive model-like person, or somebody that's very, very desirable on social media, or this, you know, super dad that can fix everything and fabricate things, or solve any problem and come in with a cape on and handle it in 10 minutes flat. You know, if your actual identity has been modeled after some of those things, as soon as something comes along that says, maybe not, your guns come up. Right? Because something has come and threatened the foundation that you've built your life on. Maybe you're not such a great soldier. Maybe you're really not that great a mom. Maybe maybe you're okay, but maybe there's lots of people a lot more attractive than you, or have better style, or have, you know, better charisma, or can fix things even better. And how come you're not like that anyway? You know, as soon as something comes up and threatens that identity that you've built your foundation on, it's like there's a little, you know, those little glass light bulbs in the hallway in the submarine, you know, they come on red, whoop, whoop, boop, boop, you know, cruise to battle stations, my friend. See, they believe they're one thing, but the problem is they've actually modeled their lives after something different. And when a threat to that comes along, they're so angry. They're not just angry like, they're desperately angry. They're in a crisis in their soul, to the point we have to do anything to eliminate this threat. This man has to die. If this is the line that he holds, he has to die. He has to be destroyed. He has to be removed. We cannot allow this to be. Isn't that how it feels a little bit? Isn't that how it feels a little bit? When you have a source of pride in your life, something that you hold strongly to. You know, I believe, you know, this is what a good man looks like, and this is how my dad was, and I've modeled myself after that. Or you have some celebrity somewhere or something. You know, I want to be like that. I want to look like that. I want to get that kind of attention. That's the good attention. That's what I want. And you model yourself after that. And you know, you may say, well, I believe and I have faith and all that stuff. But as soon as something comes up and threatens that, you find out what your identity really is about. You really do. And it's amazing. It's amazing how quickly you'll actually abandon the principles that you say that you live by in order to defend the identity that you actually have. What do I mean by that? Story time. Long time ago, Pastor James, before he was Pastor James, there was a before Pastor James, believe it or not. I was sitting at my computer and I was emailing with somebody, and I had some investments. I had some retirement money saved up, and of course I was investing it, and I've invested a long time. And I learned to invest from one of my parents, who learned to invest from one of their grandparents, who learned to invest from one of their parents. Fourth generation, right? I know about this stuff. I know. But I was having kind of a dumpy time of it because I had started to get distracted with some other things, some good things. I haven't really been paying any attention to it anymore. And so one day I opened up my thing and it was like, basically you're down like 40-something% for the year. I was like, well, normally that stuff comes back in time, but it wasn't. It was just stretching on and on and on and on and on. And I said something to somebody, and they're like, well, I know a guy who does this kind of thing. I think that's some serious underperformance. I really recommend that you go and talk to a professional. Where is my gun? The sense of livid that was inside was unmatched, unparalleled. Here I think I'm this very humble, good, I start to have a good opinion of myself. I help people, I do these good things. And somebody comes along and points out, well, you're really not that great in this particular area, or you got sloppy, or whatever. And you better get some help with that. You need to see somebody who really knows what they're doing. Woo! Oh, baby. I was just wretched inside for like 3 unstoppable minutes. Like, I could kill somebody. Like, and I'm like stopping myself a little later. I'm like, what just happened? You see, it was a point of pride for me. I had modeled a part of my life after being a good something or other, after a someone who was good at something or other. And then when somebody came along and threatened that idea, it was like somebody's laying the axe to my soul. What I'm trying to show off this morning is that if you have modeled a part of your life, even a part of your life after a someone instead of the someone, you're actually at risk. Now, I'm going to keep going with what Jesus said because, he says a lot, and I can't quote everything that he says in this whole thing. It would take me all morning to explain it, but I'm trying to explain the highlights. And as he gets to the end of his little, back and forth argument with these guys, he says, look, the reason you do not hear is that you do not belong to God. Guys, the truth is, your actual identity has been modeled after something other than God. It's the devil. Of course, you start telling people they've modeled their lives after the devil. In actuality, whoa. If you think they're going to bring Jesus back into 2021, put him on social media, and he's going to get a lot of likes, I'm not so sure. Okay, I'm not so sure. And this is what happens. Can you see the breakdown in this little give and take right about now? What do? He says, they start to resort to racial slurs and just calling them out as pure evil. They say, aren't we right in saying that you're a Samaritan and demon-possessed? Isn't that what you are? A half-breed? Overtaken by pure evil? That's what you are. That's what you are. Anybody that could come along and say things that make us feel like the way that you're trying to make us feel right now, you should die. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happens when the time is right. See, if you model your identity after someone other than God, whether you know you're doing it or not does not matter. You're going to have some serious insecurity issues. Serious. Doesn't matter if you're aware of it or not. Whatever your actual identity is built on, if something comes along and words can destroy that thing, If words are a threat to that, it's not strong enough. It's not strong enough. It's too weak. And you're going to have to, abandon ship and throw good things overboard just to run up and rise up and defend that thing. You can't think things like that. You can't say things like that. You can't mean things like that. They can't be more or better than I am. I'm the boss or whatever. You can't because it's so fragile. It's so perishable. Jesus is saying to them, he's saying to you, you shouldn't build your life after something that is that perishable, or you're going to have serious problems. Serious problems. And they did. And he makes a point of calling them out. He says, you're telling me you identify as a faith-filled person, someone who believes in the one and only true God, and you're telling me these things, and yet I am here telling you God things. And you can't hear them. Because why? Because you've allowed your identity to be modeled after something else. Maybe you didn't know it or realize it in the time. Maybe you didn't intend to, but that's actually what's happened. And because of it, you're nuts. I'm telling you good things. You're ready to kill me for it. You actually hate me. Actually. That's what real hate is. Did you know that? If you actually hate something, it becomes the wish of your life that that thing would be completely destroyed forever. That's what hate is. To be removed from the picture. Doesn't deserve to exist. That's what hatred is. Yeah. They hate him for it. So what are you supposed to do with this? Did you think about this at all while I was talking? You said, what am I supposed to do with that? Well, the first thought should be, well, that's what's wrong with them after all. I wondered what was really going on with them, and yeah, that's the problem. That makes my life easier. Now I know what's wrong with them. Well, you do. Good for you. But here's something you should know, my friends. There's a lot of people listening this morning, all that you are here in the room, all those who are out in the internet worlds. Somewhere, somebody that knows you is listening to this. Either on the other side of the room or on the other side of the internet. I don't know how that works, but it does. And you know what they're thinking? They're thinking, finally, I know what's wrong with them. I know what's wrong. They have a part of their life, at least a part, that's actually modeled after something other than God. And when something comes along that threatens their idea about that thing, they just go nuts. It's like, have you ever had a conversation with someone like that? You're talking with them, you didn't think you were wading into trouble, and then all of a sudden, whoo, something happened. Somebody hit a nerve somewhere, didn't even know it was coming. You know what I'm talking about. Somebody had that experience with you too, and they're wondering what just happened. All of a sudden you're getting hostile. They're like, whoa, you're not supposed to be hostile. All of a sudden you're starting to say things that got a little bit of a mean tinge to them. Why are they like that? That's not the person I know. What's going on with them? All of a sudden they're starting to act in a way it just isn't like, whoa, I thought it was supposed to be grace-filled Christian. All of a sudden they're just kind of like, got a little snarky kind of a mean twist to them I didn't know was there. Where did that come from? Well, that's insecurity talking. That's somebody who's got a little piece, maybe a big piece of themselves that's modeled after something that's actually just perishable. And it's their identity, and they feel that desperate threat when that comes up. Somebody gets pointed out that's more than you, which means you are less than you thought. You start getting worked up inside, wound up inside. You know, for a few minutes, you don't care that you follow Jesus. You know, somebody comes along and says, actually, I don't think you're a very good steward of your finances, if that's the kind of stuff you're doing. And you prided yourself after somebody who was responsible and sharp and analytical and stuff. I mean, you start to reach in your pockets and maybe start to unbutton your sleeves a little bit. You know, I follow Jesus, yeah, but right now, I'm going to follow my fist right into your face. You know, pride yourself as a great mama. Oh, I'm about to get dangerous. Better not go there. You know how it is? You pride yourself. I mean, you pride yourself on your children. Of course, that's not just moms, it's dads too. You pride yourself on the investment and the work that you've done in your children. I mean, you really love them. They can do no evil except when you notice it, not when anybody else notices it. Somebody else notices it, and then it's like, I will follow my fist right into your face with my arm bone. Wherever you find yourself the most tempted to dump overboard your principles and go in to defend something or defend an idea or defend just a wish or a dream. I mean, it's your points of pride that are the biggest telltales. You are the most tempted in your proudest places to be insecure. Those are the greatest temptations for you. Think of those places. If you can't imagine anyone has ever found you to be insecure in some area of your life, I mean, just look at the places you're proudest of. Maybe that's a better vantage point to come from. Look at the places you're most proud of, whether it be your home or the way that you are with a certain person or the way that you are at your job or the way that you've been responsible or always count out. What doesn't matter what it is. The way you worship, the way that you pray, doesn't matter what it is. Look at the things you're most proud of. I'm telling you, those are the places you're actually the weakest in because you're tempted to build your identity after a someone rather than the someone. And what I'm asking you to do for this week is to just call it out. Call it. Call it for what it is. Call out the weak spot. Call out the weak spot. You can't address it if you won't call it out. You can't invite God to do something about it if you won't declare that it exists in the first place. If you can't confess it, He won't fix it. You gotta deal with it. You gotta deal with it. And I'm telling you, in the moment, it feels like weakness. When you take and look and say, this is the proudest area of my life. And you say, actually, if that's what my life's about, that makes me weak. Oh, that feels dangerous. It feels dangerous. But the truth is, you're at your greatest risk. You're at your weakest when your identity is built around things that are so perishable as your reputation, as your appearance, as your ability to do things, as the level of money you have achieved, or income, or savings, or whatever. All very perishable things. If that's the foundation of who you are, you're at such great risk. Because words can destroy those things. Ideas can dump those things in the river in a hurry. If people's opinions about whether that's good or bad change, you're up the creek with no paddle. Your identity is, your very identity, your sense of worth is at risk. And what Jesus is going to teach us next week, later on, is that really there's only one rock-solid, bulletproof way to found your identity. And it means ditching even the best ideas, the best people that you respect, ditching your concept of mirroring your life after someone and saying, I want the someone to be the rock, to be the real, true foundation for my life. That's the only way you get to that bulletproof place that we all wish that we could be, when we're not so anxious all the time about what somebody might think or might say or might have meant or any of that stuff. It's the only way. It's the only way. I'm inviting you to just call it out this week. Not out. I don't need to hear it. It doesn't do me any good, okay? There's like a bazillion things you've got. I know. Probably 3 or 4 things apiece. But call it out for yourself and for God in your prayer time tonight, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Call it out and say, you know what, Lord, I actually think that preacher guy, although he's kind of weird, I don't like it, but I think it might be true. Call it out with him. Don't argue with me. I'm hard to argue with. People don't like it. I'm just smug, and I'm just kind of like, well. You're like, ah. Call it out. Call out the weak spot this week. I'm going to pray in just a minute or two, and I'm hoping that you call it out silently if you know what it is. If you don't know what it is, you better get some help. You better get some help, because this isn't going to go away on its own. It needs you to be aware, and if God has to shine some light on the situation and shine some truth on that thing, that's your chance to get free. Just like Jesus said, I will share the truth with you, and it's the truth that will set you free. So invite God to do that with me this morning and all through this week. And next week, we're going to have a good old time talking about what it's like to get bulletproof. And Jesus is going to show it, not just say it. So, Father, I ask this morning humbly, what would it be like to be free of the anxiety that we have over what people might do, what people might say, what people might think? What would that be like? Show us what it would be like. Build that into our lives. God, we invite you to call it out. If there's an area that's more about looking like someone else than you, tell us what it is. Show us. Have somebody have a conversation with us. Let it come out in prayer while we're praying sometime tonight or right now, that it would just bubble up to the top. And let us see, let us call it out and say, this is what it is. Call it for what it is. God, help us to see. Help us to hear. We don't want to be unable to hear. Help us. Use people, use your Spirit, use it all together, but help us to see it. We don't want to be weak. We don't want to have a foundation built on something that can go up and down in the waves like a boat. God, you show us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I will see you next week.